got the planter filled back up. A little something I'm trying this year. I don't have any research or anything on it. It's this BioCoat Gold from Advancing Eco Ag. Never used it before. If you guys have, give me some insight. Is it good? Is it bad? I have no idea. I'm trying her out. So far I've been sprinkling it on top of the planter unit and shaking the planter unit a little bit to get it to go in. Growing non-GMO food grade soybeans again this year. Got the 1979 Allis-Chalmers 7010 factory open station on the auger wagon. J&M 555 wagon with a, I think it's an 18 or 16 foot auger. Got the white 6606 11 row bean planter on my bigger sister to the 7010, a 1982 Allis-Chalmers 8010. That is the 41st to 8010 to be built. It's serial number 1041. Hey everybody, it's been a minute. I kind of took a year off. I started the channel and then we had a baby and I didn't take any videos last year, so hoping to start making some videos on the regular again. Anyhow, today's the first day of soybean planting for me. I've got about 20 acres planted so far. It is June 1st. Weather just has not cooperated in northwestern Ohio this year. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and head to the field. See you there. Well, the first day of bean planting ended pretty quick. She's definitely flat. Good news, found a tire and a rim. I thought I was done for today, but I guess not. It's a little different. It's a 9.5 L-15 SL. But it doesn't seem to matter because I came over here and I jacked this up and I don't think that slip clutch works anyway, because it should be driving the planter and it's not. So that would explain why, hey, there's a deer over there. Probably can't see it. That would explain why this darn thing, sometimes when you're planting, you have to pick the planter up just a stitch to get some weight on the wheels to drive it, because sometimes when one of the tires aren't touching, I've found that it doesn't drive the planter. So I'm kind of curious if that one works. I know the one on the outside works. I'm pretty positive the middle one works because I changed that tire this spring and put a new tire on it. But on the bright side, I guess it doesn't matter, but I got a tire for that one. My tire guy answers his phone on Sunday and they have one in stock, so I'm getting that first thing in the morning. So well, I guess I should get to changing this tire and maybe I can make some more video before it gets dark. Well, I got that tire put on there. and I didn't bother putting the chain back on because if it doesn't drive the shaft, there isn't really any reason to have a chain running around there. But I decided to check the next tire to see if that slip clutch works, and it doesn't. And I thought, well, maybe if the tire goes up so high it disengages it, so I just lifted it up enough to where it was barely touching the ground, and nothing. So I think I'm starting to figure out why in the world I've had so many darn issues with this planter. I thought, I'm sure everyone's going to say, well, your parallel arms aren't parallel. Well, it used to be set on this hole for down pressure, and then I got the theory, well, maybe all 11 rows here with that amount of down pressure are lifting up the frame of the planter. And so I actually had it backed to this hole, and they were parallel again. But then I wasn't getting the planter driving correctly on the seed transmission. It wouldn't plant here and there. It just was missing everywhere. So I know that the tire I changed, I know that slip clutch works. I'm positive. So I wonder if the two on that side of the planter are the only two that work. Well, assuming it's not just the one, and if it is, that tire there is not one of the main lift cylinders. Like that one seems to float, whereas these will pick up. It's a single action rather than a double action hydraulic. So I kind of wonder if I drop the planter like a normal person would to go plant, if that just doesn't have enough weight on it to drive the drive wheel. And these outside ones that do carry a lot more weight because they're double action cylinder and they're the ones that can actually pick up off the ground, maybe it just skids on the ground because all four tires aren't doing their job. So if I get into an area where that tire loses contact with the ground, there's a dip, it probably just skids. I had this problem last year and I couldn't figure it out. So I'm positive that slip clutch works, but I'm going to double check it and then we can take a look at this one over here. Okay, so I tried that one and it spins just like the other two, but if you go real slow, it'll catch. So my guess is these three slip clutches are probably damn near shot, and whoever owned it before me just replaced this one, because this one, yep, and it catches right away. So evidently this is the only darn tire on the planter that's really driving it. Those other three, like that one there, if I just went like that with it, it just click around in the slip clutch. But if I went real slow, it would catch. I didn't check that on those two, but it doesn't matter. It's not supposed to work like that. So I imagine that would be an absolute fortune on parts to replace those three slip clutches. So I don't know. If I could do it over again, I wanted a Kinsey, but this white was about half the price of a Kinsey, and I decided to go for it. But I like white planters. I like this planter. I like the idea of this planter. I like the white meter, but there's hardly any room to get in anywhere to work on anything. Like, say I was going to plant corn with this like I initially had thought. Instead, I got a surprise for you guys I haven't shown anybody on the channel yet, since this is kind of my first video back. But like, to go in and disengage these units, there's like hardly any room to get in there, and they've probably not been disengaged for who knows how long, so they're really tight. Granted, there is some tension on it, I'm sure, if I wiggled it, but there's hardly any room to work on it. And then in order to plant corn, you have to come up here and you have to jack up these units, and there's little stops. Well, there's one down there, it flips up and it must latch on the it must hold the unit up, well, obviously, and I just think it would be a pain in the butt to go back and forth. For just a regular bean planter, it's fine, but I don't know. I mean, with me being in cover crops and everything, a Kinsey with just the plain old mechanical bean meters would probably be a lot better than the blower on this, because the other thing I've been worried about is that plugging up with chaff and you know, overheating. So that's something to think about. Plus, I mean, it's a whole extra deal you got to put on the back of the tractor, and you got to change. I don't know too many people that have to change the oil on their planter, but I do. So you got the pump, you got to check the oil in the pump, you got the extra hoses coming back here, you got the expensive blower motor that you got to maintain, a filter, and then you've got all this contraption, whereas a Kinze would have literally none of this on it. And maybe that's why a 611 Kinze 2000 model, which would be about the 90s, which would be about the same time frame as this planter, brings about 10 grand more than what I paid for this. Granted, I did rebuild this. It is a nice planter, but man, it's kind of depressing. I guess I could just solve the problem if I went and got a couple stops and put on that. That way it would come down and this would take all the beating. But yeah, like, that's how it's supposed to work all down the row. But I mean, it wouldn't be so bad. I've even thought about taking the slip clutch off that one and the next one and just replacing the one down there, and then the tire on each end would do the driving, which would make sense to me. And then you wouldn't have to worry about these extra drive chains, which, I mean, I may as well take them off. They're not doing anything. And that's one of the things I really like about a Kinze planter over like a John Deere or this White, is they have the contact drive wheel that's spring loaded, that when you lower the planter, if you know it's going to drive, and you can look back from the tractor and you can see the tire spinning, and if it's not spinning, you know it's not driving. Or if the monitor tells you, which I keep thinking the monitor's wacky on this, but I'm starting to decide maybe it's all these darn slip clutches. But, you know, shoot, just put a contact wheel there and one down there, and this whole planter would be much simpler. And I mean, you know, if you're planting, if the darn, you know, you got a couple springs on that contact wheel, if that tire happens to drop down or go up, it's all under spring loaded tension. Plants. This thing here, all those slip clutches, just more to go wrong. I like simplicity on my farm, or I try to. And I'm not bashing a white planter. I do like a white planter. Ideally, I think I would, if the 8010 can pull it, which I'm skeptical, a like 2500 816 lift and twist for beans would be ideal. And I would probably like the white air planter for corn, but on the same token, with finger pickup meters, they're pretty simple. I mean, internally they're not simple, but you know, it's not like, oh, I have 3 different kinds of corn I'm going to plant this year, and all of them requires me to clean the planter out and come along here and take out these discs and put in a different disc. So in a way, I kind of feel like a John Deere planter would be, well, not a John Deere, a Kinze or finger pickup planter would be much simpler. And then I guess, you know, like the white is a good design. I do like it. I had a 5100 8-row before, and it was a good planter. And one year I couldn't figure out why I kept running out of seed corn, and I was dealing with the local Pioneer guy back then, and I had the planter set. It was supposed to be putting on the right amount. I told him what size seed I wanted. I said I want medium rounds. Everybody says that's what a white planter likes. Lo and behold, they gave me like small rounds, and I was kind of new to that planter back then, and I just took the dealer's word for it and never checked the bag. And I think 40,000 seeds an acre, or 47,000 seeds an acre, whatever it was back then, it was something ridiculously high. Later, I looked at the back of the bag and I said, I told you guys I wanted medium rounds, and these are small rounds. So I was essentially planting a bunch of doubles, and that corn, in typical, in my opinion, Pioneer fashion, sled runnered, and it was an absolute nightmare to plant. Or, sorry, harvest. Just miserable. I didn't know what harvesting corn was like. I always dreaded it until I started planting some golden harvest seed corn, and I dropped the corn head and I just went. There was no crawling in and out of the corn head, unplugging, sled runnered corn. I've got friends that love Pioneer corn, and it may work on their farm, and maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe there's some nutrient deficiency or stock deficiency that I wasn't providing the right nutrient to. But I mean, I was back then throwing 250 pounds of 0060 and 18460, I think back then is what I was using. So I think that's what most people do, and I just never had much luck with it. It always wanted to blow down, but my farm lays wetter typically, the ground that I farm, so I kind of wonder if maybe the wet feet might have done something to it too. I don't know. But long story short and rant over, I've had pretty good success with Golden Harvest corn. So alright, I just set a new AB line because the other one was kind of wonky, but it seems to be working now. I don't know what's been going on with number 2. Every time I check it, it's planting. Number 4 and number 3 and number 12 all do the same thing. I assume the sensors are probably just not working the way they should. Anyhow, try and see what happens here. I don't have the best GPS. I got a light bar, but it does the trick for me with cover crops, so it's telling me I'm too far over there. But anyhow, try again, see what happens. I'm half tempted to go back there and unhook the drive chain off of that number 1 and see if the other 2 drive chains actually do anything, because like I said, I'm not bashing a white planter. I do like a white planter, but there's just things I would do differently on them for sure. And well, I'm sure the newer ones probably have the things I'd like to have on them. Of course, I know some of these newer planters have like hydraulic drive on them and things like that. I don't know, just give me a ground driven planter with a contact wheel, something simple that, you know, if it breaks I can fix it. But there again, I'm a small family farmer. I don't farm thousands of acres. I can't update equipment every other year, so I know that the bigger companies aren't really out there to appease me. So it is what it is. I like my older stuff. I kind of enjoy the problem solving end of it as well. See if I can do a turn here one-handed. Probably not. Yes, we know. If we had one of them deals on there that would tell the monitor it wasn't planting when I pick it up, it wouldn't beep at me until I turned back around, which would probably be nice. Shut up. Well, now it's still beeping, but raise the planter just a skosh. Nothing. The heck? Darn thing. Well, number 2 appears to be planting. There are seeds in the disc. Number 4 appears to be planting. There's seeds in the disc. The chain is not broken. So in theory, if number 2 and number 4 don't have a broken chain and they're running off this same drive shaft everything else is, they should be working. But one of the things I love about having a GoPro is we're going to check it. At least number 2, because that seems to be the main one that's giving me fits. We'll put you guys in here, and you'll be able to tell me if it's planting or not. Well, are we planting? I'm gonna have to watch the footage here in a second to find out. Well, since you guys didn't tell me, the referees viewed the footage and we are good to go. Well, I'm gonna go off the AB line now, so there's no sense in using the marker. I'll let you guys watch back there for me. watching the channel before, I had a harvest video and my neighbor Dwight was in it. He's the farmer that kind of helps me haul grain and stuff and usually lets me know what all I'm doing wrong. He told me one time the Pioneer dealer came out and said, hey, I want you to try some of this corn. And he told me, he says, I can. Or told the Pioneer salesman, I can. The Pioneer said, well, why not? And he said, why, it won't work in my planter. And they said, well, Dwight, you've got a John Deere 7000 corn planter just like we do. Why won't it work in your planter? And he told that salesman, because I won't put it in. I always thought that was pretty funny. But like I said, I'd be open to trying some Pioneer again, but I'm pretty happy with Golden Harvest, and the two guys that sell it to me take pretty good care of me. I can't complain. I mean, especially being a nobody at 300 acres, it's hard to find. And he's also my tire salesman, and he's also my agronomy guy. So I've got a pretty good relationship with them, and I'm happy with that. But I don't know, the last Pioneer hybrid I grew, which I thought wasn't hateful, but it was pretty darn expensive, was $11.97. You are planting, we do know this. I even brushed out all the tubes before I started this spring. But anyways, I used to like when I was growing Pioneer seed corn, I think the last couple hybrids I really grew was like 506, and then they had a PO 993. I liked that one okay, but the year I had that, I planted 27 acres of it. I had, I think 3 or 4 tons of chicken litter to the acre put on red clover that was behind wheat. I fall plowed it, I worked it down, and planted it. And then I had a Golden Harvest hybrid number they don't make anymore. If you're familiar with Golden Harvest, G08F23. 08F23 was kind of the one that took its place. It was G08, what was it? 08 B88 or 07, sorry, 07F23, not 08F23. 07F23, and that one was 07B88. I planted that, and it wasn't even supposed to be like one of their top hybrids, but they told me you could about plant it anywhere. And it was a pretty defensive hybrid, which I look for since I don't have the greatest success growing corn. And I put the wrong fertilizer on it, so the Pioneer got more fertilizer. It didn't have plowed out clover, which should add some organic nitrogen, because I was plowing back then. And it had, let me think here, the only thing I did to it is I had it inline ripped in the fall, and I field cultivated it once in the spring, and I planted it. And that year the Pioneer made like 150, upper 150s, lower 160s. And that Pioneer, granted they were a mile apart, I guess that isn't going for it either. It made I think 189 or something. It spanked it. I didn't have near the money invested in that hybrid. And I don't even think PO 993, I don't even think it was considered a racehorse hybrid, but that pretty much was the end of my Pioneer days. I have tried 1197 since, just because I have a buddy that was kind of peddling it, but I don't even know if that's got a replacement now or they're even still growing that one. Anyways, rant about Pioneer over. I did get along okay with their soybeans, but the corn I just never really had much success with. So apparently row number 4 is definitely not planting according to the monitor. 2 and 3 are kind of flashing on and off saying it might be planting, it might not. But number 4, it says for sure not planting. I can see in there, the pin is still in there, so I know the chain is still turning the meter. The chain is not broken. So I'm gonna put you guys for a ride on number 4. And you can let me know if it's planting again, which the referees have reviewed the footage and it is planting. Sometimes I feel like shutting off the stupid monitor would be a better deal than having it on. All it does is, well, I suppose if I fix the seed sensors it would be alright, which at least I know 2, 3, 4, and 12. So I don't, last I bought a sensor for the old 5100 I had, they weren't exactly cheap. But now I know what I need to fix for next year. Probably need to start making a list. I didn't idle the tractor down because I wanted to check and see where my PSI was at on the air pressure. I've been running around 2.5 to 3. So, well, now I know it's planting. I can always shut it off and not have to listen to it.